Hey guys, welcome to Peyton Energetics. I'm Peyton, and today we are talking about what is the difference between a light worker and a starseed. So, if you have been on your spiritual path for a while, you have probably heard the terms starseed and light worker floating around everywhere in social media. And so, a lot of people are familiar with these terms, but I'm noticing as I scroll through social media lately that there's some confusion about what is a light worker and what is a starseed. And some people even use these terms interchangeably, but they really do mean something slightly different. So today we're going to take a look at some of the main things that distinguish a light worker from a starseed in order to just help you figure out which one you are, or maybe you're both, because you can be both. So let's start first off by talking about what a light worker is, because this is probably the term that has been around the longest. It's been around for several decades in books and being used to describe people who are on their spiritual path. So if you have been through your own spiritual awakening, you very likely consider yourself to be a light worker. It's very common for anyone who is on a spiritual or an intuitive path, or even a path of just self-growth, to consider themselves to be a light worker. So what is a light worker? A light worker, the way my guides have explained it to me, is someone who considers it their mission in life or one of their main purposes to be spreading love and light in the world. So light workers are people who are always trying to see the best in themselves and others, to help uplift other people, and just to be a source of more positivity in the world. So if this resonates with you, it may mean that you yourself are a light worker. And again, I think of light worker as being the big, broad umbrella term. So many people consider themselves to be light workers if they are just living their life from a position of positivity. If you want to be a source of love and positive change in the world, it's very appropriate then to consider yourself to be a light worker. So then what is this whole starseed thing that has popped up so recently? So while we talked about the term light worker has really been around for probably decades, I think it at least goes back to maybe the late 80s. The term starseed is much newer. I didn't start to hear the word starseed probably until about 2 to 3 years ago, when it really started to get popular on social media and in spiritual and metaphysical circles. So, what is a starseed? How is that different from a light worker? Because a lot of light workers are also starseeds. And so you may find that you resonate with one term more than the other, or maybe you consider yourself to be both. So, what is the difference then? Well, a starseed differs from a light worker in a very important way. And so the main thing that separates the light worker from the starseed is the origin of their soul. So what does that mean? Well, when we talk about a starseed, what we're talking about is someone whose soul originates from another star system. So that means that a starseed actually does not originate at the soul level from the earth plane. So a starseed tends to come from one of 6 or 7 of the star systems that are most closely connected with Earth. And my guides always explain to my clients that there are 6 or 7 star systems that most star seeds come from. So if you consider yourself a star seed, you may very well have a soul that comes from one of these 6 or 7 star systems. And those star systems, in case you're not familiar with them, tend to be the Pleiadians or the Pleiades, the Sirians, the Sirius star system, the Andromedans, which are a little more rare. We don't have as many Andromedan star seeds as some of the other star races. The Arcturians, so many of us either work with the Arcturians or are familiar with their amazing healing abilities. And those are some of the more common of our star seed systems. But you may also have star seeds that are from Orion. Everyone's familiar with the Orion constellation. From Lyra, which was actually where all human life in the galaxy started. So we all have a little bit of Lyran genetics in us. Also, the Vegans pop up from time to time, which was a sister civilization to the Lyrans. And you may also see reptilians, of course, we are familiar with. We don't often consider them to be starseeds necessarily, but they would fall into the definition of a starseed. And you may also hear of the Cassiopeans. So those are some of the more common starseed races. So when we use the word starseed, we're talking about someone who is living on Earth right now, so incarnated into a human body, but whose soul originates from one of these evolved star systems. Usually these 6 or 7, but the list really goes on. So you can have starseeds who come from star systems that we are not even familiar with here on Earth. So that is really the main difference between a light worker and a starseed, and that is the origin of their soul. So if a starseed has a soul that originates from another star system, where does a light worker's soul originate from? Well, a light worker can also be a starseed. So if you are a light worker, you may still have a soul that comes from one of these evolved star civilizations. But a light worker can also be an earth soul. And so that's where you get into having someone who may be a light worker, but isn't a starseed. So if all of your incarnations have been here on Earth, if your soul was birthed into the Earth construct, then you may fall under the definition of being a light worker, but not be a starseed, because the origin of your soul is here on Earth. So that is the main difference between the terms light worker and starseed, is the origin of an individual's soul. But there is something else that kind of separates light workers from starseeds. And one of those things is the kind of mission that that person is on. So when we talk about missions, if you have had your spiritual awakening, one thing that so many of my starseed and light worker clients talk about is feeling like they are here with a soul mission, a soul purpose. And they know that it's really important and they really need to get on with it. And so this sense of having a mission is one of the main hallmarks of being a starseed. Because when starseeds incarnate on Earth, they did that with a very specific purpose in mind. And the reason that we have starseeds on Earth right now is because they are here to help lift the vibration of the planet. So starseeds come in intending to help humanity through the ascension process. And there are several different kinds of starseeds. So you can think of starseeds as being broken down into different types of mission. So you may have some starseeds who are here to work on our grid system, to work on building the 5D grid. So one category of starseeds are grid workers. Another category are starseeds who are here to anchor frequency. And so what that means is that that starseed came from their star system to hold a very high vibration. And that's their job, just to get their vibration as high as they can and hold it there as often as they can. So this is another one of those things that a starseed may realize as being the mission that they are here to accomplish. There are other starseeds who are just here to anchor a very particular frequency, or to help bust down some of these systems that are very 3D and polarity based systems. So the type of mission that you are here to do at a soul level can help separate whether you are a starseed or whether you are a light worker. Because light workers, in my experience and from the clients that I've worked with, don't have quite the same strong, compelling feeling that they're here to do something specific, that they're here on a mission. That tends to be something that you see in starseeds, just this driving sense that there's something really important you're supposed to be doing. So light workers tend to be a little more flexible on what they consider their mission to be, or their soul purpose, or their soul path. So a lot of the light workers that I have worked with have had a much more just general desire to be loving in the world. So whereas a starseed may feel like they are a Navy SEAL here to do something specific and you don't want to get in their way, light workers tend to be a little more flexible in how they carry out their purpose, their spiritual purpose on Earth. So if you are a light worker, but not a starseed, you may not feel as compelled, as driven to do a particular type of energy work. And so light workers tend to be here just to be beacons of love, just to be positive people, to help uplift everyone around them, but they don't necessarily have that strong sense of being here on a job the way starseeds do. So that is another way that you can separate whether you're more of a light worker. If you just feel like you just want to be happy and help other people be happy, that's much more what you would see with a light worker, as opposed to feeling like you are here to do a job. Because that is what I tend to hear from so many of my starseed clients is they know they're here to do a job and they want to get on with it. So that's the second thing that can help you separate whether you are a light worker or whether you are a starseed. And finally, the third thing that can help you determine whether you are a light worker or a starseed is how easy life is for you. And this sounds kind of funny, but the experience that light workers have just in their daily life is a little different from the experience of your average starseed, because light workers tend to have it a little easier. Because when we talk about light workers, we're talking about people who their soul is from Earth. All of their previous incarnations are Earth-based. So light workers are much more familiar with human life than starseeds are. And they also have genetics that are purely human, or almost purely. Of course, we all have galactic origins, but light workers have more human genetics than your typical starseed does. So a light worker, a lot of times, will find it much easier just to be in a human body and experience a human life. They understand other humans. They fit into their bodies a little more comfortably. And they just find that they get people, and that the Earth experience is not quite as jarring on a light worker as it tends to be on a starseed. So this ease of living is another one of those things that can help you separate whether you are a light worker or whether you are a starseed. Because starseeds, on the other hand, have souls that come from very advanced galactic civilizations. That's what a starseed is. And so because of that, the starseed is bringing in soul energy that is very different from the Earth energy. And so a starseed may be bringing very high dimensional energies into this human incarnation. And so what can happen when you bring that very high vibrational energy, and very foreign, the energy is very different from Earth energy. So when a starseed is born into this physical body, it can make them much more uncomfortable in their physical body because their soul energy is not as good a match for the human body as a light worker's is, because the light worker, again, has a soul that comes from the Earth plane. So starseeds can struggle a little more with their physical bodies, either with not liking being in a physical body or with having more health issues than the average person. These are, again, some of those signs that you may be a starseed. Another thing that starseeds have that light workers don't struggle with as much is feeling like they don't really understand humans. And again, this is because their soul is not from here. They come from very highly evolved civilizations that may not even be in physical bodies anymore. So one thing that is one of the hallmarks of the starseed is feeling a little isolated, feeling like you're not from here, like you want to go home, like you don't really get people in general or why people make the choices that they make. This is a very starseed thing. And again, it's that difference of perspective because the starseed soul comes from a very different galactic civilization. And so starseeds can feel just very like the black sheep of the family, like they don't fit in here on Earth, they don't belong here, they don't want to be here. All of these are signs that you may be a starseed. So again, it's a little different between a starseed and a light worker. Light workers have it a little easier just because of that Earth origin of the soul. Makes them fit into their human bodies a little easier, relate to people a little easier, and just understand kind of what's going on here on Earth a little bit better than your average starseed. Starseeds tend to have it a little rougher, I hate to say. Just everything is a little harder, but they are here for a purpose. And if you are a starseed, you are here to do something magical. You are here to do something huge. And you are here to help change the course of this planet and help humanity through the ascension process. And it's not an easy road. Well, really, none of us probably have an easy road, even light workers. But if you're a starseed, you are doing something huge. So although it's probably a little tougher for you, most starseeds report kind of having a rough go of it. Just know you are doing something hugely important. So those are the top 3 things that can help you determine whether you are a light worker or whether you are a starseed. And maybe you're both. I certainly am both. And a lot of people that I have met on this journey are light workers and starseeds, but you don't have to be. It is totally possible to be just one. So just feel into this, what resonates as you hear these different descriptions. Your soul, your intuition will help you figure out which one you are. Hope this helps you. I'll see you soon. Bye.